Show your mercy and your grace. Change my life, oh Holy Spirit. Make me fresh and ever new. Make my life a holy sacrifice to you. Make my life a holy sacrifice to you.
My eyes are dry, my faith is old, my heart is hard, my prayers are cold, and I know how I ought to be alive to you and dead to me. What can be done to an old heart like mine? Soften it up with oil and wine. The oil is you, your spirit of love. Please wash me anew in the wine of your blood.
My eyes are dry, my faith is old, my heart is hard, my prayers are cold, and I know how I ought to be alive to you and dead to me. What can be done to an old heart like mine? Soften it up with oil and wine. The oil is you, your spirit of love. Please wash me anew in the wine of your blood.
The oil is you, your spirit of love. Please wash me anew in the wine of your blood.
Lord, the light of your love is shining in the midst of the darkness shining. Jesus, light of the world, shine upon us. Set us free by the truth you now bring us. Shine on me, shine on me. Lord, I come to your awesome presence. From the shadows into your radiance. By the blood I may enter your brightness. Search me, try me, consume all my darkness. Shine on me, shine on me. Shine, Jesus, shine. Fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze. Set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow. Flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light. As we gaze on your kingly brightness, so our faces display your likeness, ever changing from glory to glory. Mirrored here, may our lives tell your story. story. Shine on me, shine on me. Shine, Jesus, shine, fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze, set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow, flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light. Shine, Jesus, shine, fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze, set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow, flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light. I am a sheep and the Lord is my shepherd, watching over my soul to keep guarding over me ever, watching wherever I go. And when the winds blow, He is my shelter, and when I'm lost and alone, He rescues me. And when the lion comes, He is my victory, constantly watching over me. He is constantly watching over me. And when the winds blow, He is my shelter, and when I'm lost and alone, He rescues me. And when the lion comes, He is my victory, constantly watching over me. He is constantly watching over me. Gentle Shepherd, come and lead us, for we need you to help us find our way. Gentle Shepherd, come and feed us, for we need your strength from day to day. There's no other we can turn to who can help us face another day. Gentle Shepherd, come and lead us, for we need you to help us find our way. Gentle Shepherd, come and lead us, for we need you to help us find our way. Gentle Shepherd, come and feed us, for we need your strength from day to day. There's no other we can turn to who can help us face
Sorry to look so awesome.
Oh, no. I just know it, not everybody else, that's all. It's good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Bet.
Welcome. Welcome. You got Rob, thank you. I know what you're doing. Are you gonna sit right? Yeah. Right in the spitting section, yeah.
Beautiful woman's gonna come join me in a minute.
Yes. Move that down. Well, it's good to see everyone out this morning. And hope you guys all had a good week. So Steve was supposed to finish off his second study today. I'm not sure if he's going to fill up to concluding his second one or not. That's going to, I think, remain open at this point. We're going to have to see how he feels. Can you turn down number 4? It's a little hot on the not on the computer, but on the sliders on the number 4. Yeah, so just turn it down a tiny bit. Okay, I think that's a little better. You're a little ringing. So. Yeah, a little feedback. Okay, so the question is, for the morning, how do popular people become popular? Okay, Bob, go for it.
I would say friendliness to begin with.
Okay, friendliness, you think. Okay. Let's think in the broader sense of culture. Yes.
I was going to say popular in what way? Good way or bad way?
Well, I'm just saying in general, as far as our American culture is concerned, how do people become popular? Okay, I got questions. Okay, Deanne, do you have?
The way they socialize, if they're on social media, if they go to parties, if you're talking about
Okay.
parties.
Okay, so the socialization. All right. Was it Amber? Oh, okay, Amber. I couldn't. I can't.
How you look.
Yes. What? How you look? Okay. Yeah. How you look?
Yeah, that's what I would say. Being born beautiful.
Okay. Being born beautiful.
Right.
Yes.
For some of us anyway.
Right.
Money. Okay. Yeah. Money's another one of those big ones, right? That we talk about. Yes. Accomplishment. Okay.
Achieving things for the country, for the sake of people.
Okay. Rick.
I think the bottom line, genuinely, when people are easy to be around, because they care about people, they're nice to people.
Okay.
They just make it easy to be around them, and they become popular.
Okay. And, I appreciate the answers you guys are giving me because some of these are actually ones that I hadn't thought about. Hey, Brandon, take number 4 down a little bit more. See, the slider says 4, turn it down just tiny. Okay, that's better. All right. Yeah, you guys are bringing up some that are actually not ones that I was thinking of right off the bat, because there is different ways you can look at popularity, right? You can look at popularity in regard to the grander scheme of the entire nation. You can look at popularity within the groups of people that you run. There's different ways you can account for popularity. But I kind of wanted to talk about a few ideas that I was thinking of as far as popularity. And one of the things that I think come up is one of the things that popped into my mind is they possess something that others want. Is that a true reason why some people become popular?
Or they look like it.
So whether it's their athletic ability in the cases of this, attractiveness, as was mentioned, money was mentioned, power is another one of those things. The other thing is that they have created or they have invented, and I think someone mentioned this, they have created or invented something that others want. I mean, Elon Musk, there's no way he would have got to that amount of money without actually having something that people wanted and would buy from him. And so there is that. Bill Gates, of course, is an example of someone that became very rich and popular for the fact that he actually made something. Now, granted, whenever we talk about popularity in these senses, this is popularity amongst the entire nation. This is not necessarily popular amongst the people that they're around, because we don't really know them that well to know whether or not they're a jerk or not, but you know, it is what it is. The other thing to consider, by the way, who's that guy on the top?
Edison.
Good. I don't think I would have known who it was.
Thomas Alva Edison.
Oh, Edison. All right. Another way we can think of popularity is that they are associated with something we like, right? So when we're talking about movies, I saw them in a movie and I like that movie. And so you start seeing them over and over in these movies and you're like, yeah, I like that movie. That is a way that people become popular. Whenever we're talking about like some of the other people that do fishing or something like that, or who's this guy right here? Well, Ross. So you guys know who he is, right?
The painter.
What is this guy? Bear Grylls. Right. So these people are associated with things that people like. So whether if you're an outdoorsy person, you may be more associated with looking at what Bear Grylls is doing, or what Bob Ross is doing, or I don't know this guy, by the way, but he's apparently some grand fisherman. So if you're big into fishing, he might be someone that you would follow. But that's the idea. You gravitate towards those people that have a common interest, that idea that make people, that you can make a connection with them. And then another area is what I would call a common interest or ideology that many people gravitate towards. And we see this in politics as well. So you typically will gravitate towards people that share a common, set of values or political stance. So that's another way. Now, granted, this is another area that maybe very much so you don't necessarily want to run in a social circle with this person, but
I noticed you didn't put Biden up there.
Whoops.
It's old.
Yeah, what's that? He's president.
I just didn't find that picture. All right. So the next question, I guess, we need to ask is, how do people treat people, popular people?
Deference.
There's difference?
No, deference. With deference. We defer
Okay.
deference to them.
And so what do you mean by that?
You mean we think they're special?
Okay, they're special. Anybody else?
We hang on every word they say.
We hang on every word they say.
Wait, what was that?
We believe them even if we know it's a lie.
What?
We'll believe it.
What was that? I'm sorry.
We'll believe anything they say even if we know it's a lie. We'll believe it.
We'll believe anything they say, even though we know it's a lie. I would agree. She's very much right about that. There are people that will overlook every indiscretion someone makes because they're popular.
They become the expert.
Yes, they become the experts. That's a good one.
Thank you. You're welcome.
The expert class, right? We've heard a lot about that lately. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there is, I think we all agree that there is a certain amount of latitude we give people that are popular, right? I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing, but it's true. We typically give them much more latitude than have been granted to any one of us if we were in the same situation. So we know this just by looking at some of these examples. These are areas where we've seen a lot of latitude granted to people that maybe if it was us in that situation, we would not have been granted that latitude. And we may be rotting in a jail cell somewhere or something. So I mean, this is a good example of I think, what happens is we give them this special treatment. We often follow them in other ways. So these are some media outlets that are notorious for following people and that are popular and that are trying to learn more about them and to be close to these people. So yeah, I mean, I think that there is definitely a different way they're treated. Much more attention is applied to them, and usually people will spend a lot of time thinking and devoting their attention to them. And they'll talk about them often. We know that we see that in pop culture. Now, the reason I bring that up this morning is because we're going to talk about a subject, glorify. All right? And so glorification has a lot to do with this idea of popularity in our mind, right? And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay. Humans will instinctively glorify something or someone. Do you guys agree with that or disagree with that?
Yeah. I wouldn't say instinctively.
You don't think it's instinctive?
No.
I don't know. I think it's pretty given that everyone will do this to a certain degree.
Yeah, I think it reflects the yearning that God put within us for Him.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
And that's where my thought process was going, was that it is innate in us. I think we sometimes, we will always do something, whether it's small or big. I would agree that not every one of us goes to the level that we're going to every magazine rack and looking up every piece of information on someone. But to an extent, every one of us has something that we will instinctively glorify, we will put on a pedestal, we will look to, whether it be an interest or whatever, something or someone. And I think sometimes we get into the mindset that to glorify is something that is exclusively biblical or religious purposes because of its extensive use in the scriptures. But what's interesting is that human beings are drawn to the need to glorify something or someone, and that's what Dennis was getting at, was that innate need for us to seek that out. It is a characteristic that is woven into the nature of man, and for good reason.
Spencer?
Yes?
Wouldn't you say that to begin with, a person would have to be taught?
I do not believe they have to be taught to do this. I mean, at least in my view, I don't think they have to be taught. I will say that what you glorify is sometimes taught, but not that you will do it. So I think that is part of being human. It's kind of like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Jesus said in Luke 16 that you're going to serve a master.
Oh, okay. That's a good scripture. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
Would you repeat that for us out of hearing?
Oh, my name?
Yes.
Luke 16 says, or Jesus says that you're going to serve a master. You
Yes,
will serve.
you will serve a master. And so that's a very good passage to bring up, because I think that does really point to the fact that we will look for something. We will look for something to serve. And you see this in society at large, whether you're talking about within the religious community or whether you're talking about in pop culture, those people that are non-religious, they will serve something. And this is actually becoming more and more pronounced today as we see some of these more modern ideologies that are popping up that circle around, the ideas of politicalness. And this is why we struggle so much, is because what is happening is they are following an ideology. They are glorifying that ideology and trying to promote that in the world. And so that becomes their religion to a certain degree.
Sometimes it's self-seeking too,
Okay?
glorifying yourself.
Well, right. That's true.
You know, buy all this stuff, give me more toys, give me more this, more that.
Yep. Yeah, so she mentioned that sometimes it's glorification of self, which I would agree with. Okay. I forgot my... Okay, so what does glorify mean to you?
To raise them up.
To raise them up, okay?
Make bigger.
To make bigger, all right? I'm going to ask you a little bit more on that, Lenita. What do you mean by that?
Well, to, like in a magnifying glass, you, making them bigger,
Okay, so
bringing attention to.
focusing in on something. Okay, all right. Yes, Rick.
In a biblical sense, it's when somebody is, they have a special talent or special knowledge or something that makes them important to other people.
Okay.
Such as the apostles, for example, they were given the word, and then they were to go out and spread that word. Well, the word that they were given was important. It was the knowledge of salvation.
Right.
And so that made them important. John chapter 19.
Okay.
It talks about, Jesus said, the glory that you have given me, that I have given them.
Okay.
And what he's referring to is that importance that he's given to them.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that exact point later on, actually, which is, it's actually interesting. We're going to talk about it in a section we call the glory cycle. And I don't know whether or not that's going to be reached today in the lesson. I need to probably put more work on that, so I doubt we're going to reach that. But that is an interesting point that you bring up. Any other comments on that? What does glorify mean to you? Yes?
Giving the credit.
Giving the credit, okay. Giving the credit where the credit is due, yes, Mark.
Setting that person or thing that you want above everything else.
Okay, setting that person or thing above things, okay, yeah. Yes?
Honor or esteem.
To honor or esteem. I like that. That one actually falls right in line with what we actually see in some of the Greek ideas that talk about that. So we're going to talk about two different words, but we're going to start with this word here, glory, which is doxa in the Greek. The root doxa is typically a noun, and it refers to an opinion or judgment or view. And it can refer to splendor or brightness, magnificence, excellence, preeminence, dignity, grace, majesty. And it can also be used almost like an adjective. So a good example of this is found in this passage here. Oops. you guys remember this one? There is one glory of the sun, another glory of the moon, another glory of the stars, for the stars differ from star in glory. Yes, Rick?
I'm sorry, I have to correct myself. I think I said 19, it's actually chapter 17,
Of
verse 22.
verse 22, remind me, go ahead and say the whole passage. I'm sorry, I couldn't.
It's chapter 17, John chapter 17.
John chapter 17, yes. Yeah, we're going to talk about, yes. So in the scriptures, when we see the word doxa, it is many times referring to, it could be a descriptive thing, it can be referred to as a noun. So in this situation, it's talking about, at least in the context of this passage, it's talking about the new bodies that we will receive and the glory that, and it starts talking about Paul's talking about this idea of giving the glory of the sun and the moon and the different things. And so he's just using this as kind of an example when he's talking about the glory of the new bodies that we'd receive. But I think what we can understand from this is that the idea of glory is going to vary a bit based upon its usage in Scripture. And this is not unusual for a lot of Greek words. You run across a Greek word, you're going to see it used in one way in this context and another way in this context. So this is why it's dangerous, to do just a singular word study. You actually have to do this word study based upon how it's used in that context. And so the next word I wanted to kind of take a quick look at is actually a variant of that word doxa, which is what I want to focus more on, which is the doxazo, which is the word used in the scriptures for glorify. Okay, so so the word glorify is to think, to suppose, to be of opinion, and this is good opinion and high regard. To praise, extol, magnify, celebrate, to hold in honor. To make glorious, clothe with splendor, to render something excellent, to make renown, render illustrious, to cause the dignity and worth of some people or something to become magnificent and acknowledged. So there's a lot there, but I think all of that description does give us an idea of what we're talking about whenever the scripture says glorify. So on a very generic sense, as you dig deeper into the scriptures, the word glorify is actually interesting because it is used to begin, it is used and we'll begin to see that it's something that actually begins and ends with God. And it's very interesting in how it's used and in the various forms that it's used. Just remember that it does begin and end with God. And it is part of God's very makeup. Glory and glorification is woven into God's very purposes and will for humanity. Those are kind of some bold statements, but I think as you look at the word's use throughout the scriptures, you will see that idea is very much woven into God's plan for humanity.
Is that where the word doxology comes from?
Good question. I'm not sure. I think it might be.
Gordon talked about that one.
Did he? Okay. Pull that one from the memory banks. Doxology. Nice. All right. So, what are some ways we believe we can glorify God today?
Serving Him and serving others?
Okay, serving Him, serving others. Yeah, that's. I think most of us understand and believe that's a method by which we can glorify God.
In our songs.
In our songs, okay. Yes.
We don't use His name in vain.
We don't use his name in vain. Okay.
In prayer?
In prayer? Yeah. You guys are starting to prove my point, right? When I said everything begins and ends with God, and everything, it's very much part of everything in the plan, because you guys are pointing out a lot of things that we do as Christians. Steve?
Witnessing for him.
Witnessing for him, okay? And think about that as you say these words, and what we were just talking about with the definition, right? A lot of what you're saying here actually point back to the definition of what we're talking about. Yes,
The way
Lenita.
we live our lives.
The way we live our lives, right? It penetrates all these different areas. Yeah, so, and I'd written down a lot of these in our singing, our prayer, our worship, our study, sharing the gospel, the lives we live. So, yeah, I mean, it does go into all these areas. So, I want to kind of break these down and kind of look at them sort of individually, and kind of just do some general groupings of these. But I think it's kind of important to kind of understand the different ways that we can glorify God. So some of the passages talk about how we glorify Him in our praise and worship. I'm going to run through several passages here that talk about that idea that we see in the book of Psalms. Psalms 111, 2 through 4. Great are the works of the Lord, studied by all who delight in them. Full of splendor and majesty is His work, and His righteousness endures forever. He has caused His wondrous works to be remembered. The Lord is gracious and merciful. So this is just one of those psalms that talk about some of the words in there, the splendor, the majesty, that we delight in the study, the works of the Lord and the studies of them. So these are all ideas that talk about and get to the heart of our worship and our praise of God. The next one, Psalms 95, 1 through 5. Oh, come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come into His presence with thanksgiving. Let us make a joyful noise to Him with songs of praise. For the Lord is a great God, a great King above all gods. I'm sure you guys have heard this one before.
It's a song.
It's a song. In His hand are the depths of the earth, and the height of the mountains are also His. The sea is His, for He has made it, and His hands form the dry land. Yeah, I mean, this is a very popular song that I've heard sang many, many times, but this does go into that idea of glorifying God. And what is some of the reasons why we're glorifying God in this song?
Salvation.
Okay, so the rock of our salvation.
Him being a great king.
Yeah, the fact that his hand are the depths of the earth. He has formed a lot of these things. So there is some reference to the idea that He is the great creator. Psalm 63, 2 through 3. So I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory. Because your steadfast love is better than life, my lips will praise you, and I will bless you as long as I live. In your name I will lift up my hands. So another one of those psalms that talk about our glorification when we praise and worship God. So these psalms paint, I think, a very picture of the greatness and magnificence of God. God is exceptionally grand in His nature and deeds. He's full of splendor and majesty in His work. And so when we glorify Him and we worship, we acknowledge His greatness and splendor and exalt Him for it. I mean, that's a lot of what our song worship is about. It's a lot of what we do. We are acknowledging the greatness of God, and that should be part of what we're doing here. Yes? Dale?
One characteristic is we do all this in the presence of other people. I mean, we can certainly give honor to God in our prayers and in talking to Him and bring praise to Him, but when we exalt Him, when we promote Him, when we advertise Him to other people for what He is and who He is and what He's done, that's what the psalmist is doing.
Yes.
He's-
Exactly, and I appreciate that. That's a great way to understand it, because that's kind of why we were looking at popularity, because that's how we lift up people and exalt them in popularity. And so when we're talking about God in our worship, He should be our popularity. He should be the one that's popular to us, and then everything else should be blocked out. So when we're talking about worship to God, that's where we should be focusing. Revelations chapter 14, verses 6 through 7. Then I saw another angel flying directly overhead and with an eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on earth, to every nation and tribe and language and people. And he said with a loud voice, "Fear God and give Him glory, because the hour of His judgment has come, and worship Him who made heaven and earth and the sea and the springs of water." So this passage we have... we see this picture of an angel who calls us to glorify because of the gospel and the judgment and His creation. And I think that we have these scriptures that call us to praise and worship God, to glorify Him because of who He is, what He's done, and what He will continue to do. I mean, it does go all the way back to what we saw Him do at creation. And it talks about, when we talk about worship and glorification of God, it talks a lot about who He is. You know, He is a God of greatness. He is a God that is deserving of all glory because of the fact that He has existed for all time. He is a God that has created all things. He is a God that is perfect. You just go on and on and on, because everything goes back to Him when it comes to where we should be directing our praise and our worship and our glorification of Him. I lost my place. One moment when I find it again here. Okay. And I think as we mature as Christians, we discover more and more things that fall into these reasons to glorify God. I don't know about you guys, but through the years as being a Christian and your studies in the scriptures, do you come through and you're like, oh, I didn't see that in the scriptures before. And then you like, God's doing that in my life too. And you're always kind of amazed and you're like, wow. And you don't realize it necessarily as you're going through life, and then come later on, you look back and you're like, oh wow, look at that. God's been doing all these amazing things. And so He is deserving of glory for this and for that. And so more and more as you grow as a Christian, you have more and more reasons that you would glorify God and worship Him. You know that in John chapter 4, and I know that you guys probably know this, in John chapter 4, verses 23 through 24, Jesus is talking to the woman at the well. And He says to her, "But the hour is coming and is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship Him. God is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship Him in spirit and truth." And we see here that we are called to worship Him, with the spirit and truth. And I know that you guys are extremely familiar with this passage. And so, what does that mean, to worship Him in spirit and truth?
Well, Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes unto the Father except through me.
Okay.
So part of the truth is we come to God through Jesus.
Okay.
And by what he has done. And to say that, that God is spirit just means he's not material. He's not energy. He's not matter. He's spirit. And but the greater part of that is because we have received the gift of the Spirit given to us, again because and through Jesus, we have access to the Father. We have a conduit, if you will, to the Father through the Spirit that indwells us.
Right, and I, all of those are true elements to what we're getting at, I think. But also, I think there is also the idea that we are not just paying lip service or going through the motions. Do you think that is a component of that as well? And I think you're right, Dale, because you can't do those things.
That's right, yes.
And so you can't just go through the motions. Your heart must be engaged, and your minds must be engaged to truly recognize the raw glorification of God. It cannot be just this passive thing by which you come in here and sit here and just go, okay. That's not what it's talking about. It's talking about truly engaged by the spirits that we have, as Dale was mentioning, by the truth of who God is. And those are all things that we have to recognize when we come in here to worship. And I think that it does speak a lot to how we should approach worship and how we should come to God when we come to worship Him. And I guess I asked the question, and I think that has this become increasingly difficult to recognize God's magnificence? Why or why not? And this may be a personal thing. Yes, Jeff?
I think kind of as a result of industrial age and other things like that, we don't experience as much nature
Okay.
as we used to. And so in more rural places, maybe it's more possible, but you can get away from nature and kind of away from God's creation a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, and there is that aspect, right? Because part of our understanding of and glorification of God comes from the fact that we can look at what He has done and know that He is a powerful God. Anybody else on this? Yes?
Well, this alone is magnificent that we're all here.
Yeah, I agree.
The world is too busy.
The world's too busy. Okay, Mark.
We get increasingly dependent on our own selves or our own knowledge or our own wisdom.
Okay.
The more relationship we develop with God, the easier it is to worship Him.
Okay.
If you don't have a relationship with Him, you come because somebody tells you you should be there and sit with you, but you're not actually glorifying God.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's very, very possible to do that, to come in and sit down and not glorify God. Marcia, expand a little bit.
Well, it's difficult to recognize who gave you knowledge, talent, wisdom, when you start doing it internally. You think, and I think this is probably, like he said, the industrialization of the nation. We've come to think that we are the ones that are doing everything. People, humans.
Yeah.
Not giving God the glory or the credit, if you will.
Okay, yeah. No, that makes sense. Yes.
It's
Yeah.
kind of, in my mind, it reminds me of the Tower of Babel. Men came together, they developed technology, they developed the means to build great things, and they were going to build something to heaven. to reach heaven without God, to not give him credit for anything, you know, that
Right.
was granted to them. It was all what they were able to do.
Yeah, I appreciate
And
that.
we have multiple towers of Babel today.
Multiple towers of Babel. You're right. That is an excellent example. Yes, Bob.
I think one of the ways to recognize God's magnificence is to just to look around you
Mm-hmm.
and to see what he has done.
Yeah. And back to Jeff's point. And, you know, when we come in, yes,
I think sometimes we don't understand that worshiping in spirit completely. In Romans 8, I can't remember what, I think it's 8 or 9 or somewhere in there, it says, unless you have the spirit of Christ, you're not mine. So, you know, we're dealing with spirits of kingdom.
right.
We must have Christ's spirit.
Yes, and I agree. There is that component and I think when we get to that section where we talk about the glory cycle, I think you'll see that definitely plays in to that glory cycle. And so,
A lot of times when you go to a foreign country, you can't understand what they're talking about. You need a translator.
Yes.
Romans says that the Holy Spirit translates for you.
yes. Yeah, so I think that the point is valid, is that our hearts, when we come in to worship God, should be on fire. They should be burning within us, knowing the immense worthiness of everything that we can give in our heart and our mind. And the struggle is, there is so much distraction in the world today that we as a society are finding it, at least in my mind, I find it increasingly difficult to block out the competition for our attention. And it is trouble. I mean, I'm not saying I'm innocent in this. I whip out my phone many times too, looking something up. Some things are required for me to do that, but you know, based upon the streaming I have to do. But it can be a distraction, and there are things that we run up against in our lives, our busy lives. When we're sitting here, have you guys ever been sitting here and you know, you hear a chopper go by, and it's so loud it just it distracts you sometimes from what you're trying to accomplish. It's not to say it can't be done, but just that these are distractions. Mobile phones, all these distract from the focus on worship and the greatness of God. Yeah, again, it can be done. It just feels sometimes that it can be very difficult to focus on worship. Our hearts should be continually consumed, burning within us, knowing the immense worthiness of everything that we give in our heart and mind to God. And I believe that as we come to worship and glorify God in recognition of who He is, rather than focusing on ourselves, the worship will become more and more amazing to you. The glorification will extend from you as a natural progression of your maturity in Christ. As we more and more become totally immersed in true worship and glorification of God, the matters of the world and our own selfish needs, I think will help. It will eventually start to fall away, and they will be replaced by the desire to magnify God. So that's where I'm going to end today. I still have a lot more to go. We're going to start talking about other ways we glorify God, and we're going to go through some of the things that you guys had already mentioned to me, because I think it's good to actually look at what the scriptures say about those things, so that we gain a better understanding of how we can glorify God in our Christian life.
Good lesson.
Thank you. Yes, Rick? Thank you. All right, guys.
You did an excellent job for no advance notice.
Well, I had some advance notice. All right, thank you, guys.